Welcome, listeners, to northeastvalleynews.org and NEVN-FM on Spotify. You're listening to This Day in Sport. It's a sports podcast, if you can believe that.
We talk about sports.
We talk about sports. It's Tuesday, October 24th in Scottsdale, Arizona, on the campus of Scottsdale Community College. We're in the midst of Spirit Week. It used to be homecoming, but it's not homecoming anymore because we don't have football. So it's Spirit Week. Yeah, Maricopa Community College District decided to ban footy ball. But what are you going to do? I'm Ole Olafson. I'm the producer of this show for the time being until I get fired. Preston Grace is here as well.
Hello.
Also, my man Ethan Cohen.
What's up, party people?
And better late than never, Chance LeBlanc got here just under the wire before
I'm here
before the door
Under
closed.
the tag.
I'm here. Apologize for being late, but I'm here.
Slipped in right before the door locked. That was good timing. This is a podcast in two parts. If you've been listening to it, we certainly appreciate that. If you haven't been, I'm going to explain it right now. The first part of the podcast is what we refer to as the 2-minute warning, where each of us goes around and talks about something we feel is interesting and hope that you will feel it's interesting as well. Then we have, actually it's a 3-part podcast, but it's only 2 real parts. There's the middle part is a word from our sponsor, northeastvalleynews.org and Funyuns. We decided to take them on as a
Funyuns.
Well, they're a co-sponsor.
Yeah.
Onion
flavored rings.
Onion flavored rings. We're just giving them some free publicity because we like them. And then the last part of the podcast, which is the biggest part of the show, is called The Main Event. So we're going to get started right now with a 2-minute warning. Let's start out with some baseball 2-minute warning. Preston, you were going to talk about our very own, since we're here in the Valley, Arizona Diamondbacks.
Yes.
And what they have accomplished so far in the playoffs, etc.
Well, to put it into summarize, they are 1 win away from going to the effing World Series, which is
It's big,
insane to me. If you told me 160 games into the season that they're going to be 1 win away from the World Series, I simply wouldn't believe you.
we would have
I
laughed.
just simply
Probably
would not have believed
I
it.
remember we were just talking like before the season burst, and we were just happy them making the playoffs.
Yeah.
We were just saying there may be a 500 team. Let's just get in the playoffs, see what happens. I will say though, being at the D-backs and riding for them a number of times this year, Torey Lovello repeated the same message, and he said that we just need a chance to get in. That's all we need. And I always think about that, and I thought about that all morning, honestly, driving in, listening to 98.7. Everybody's so fired up and excited about this.
Yeah. You got Brandon Pfaadt, the rookie, who's coming off the best performance of his career, if you ask me.
And how fitting, though, it's Brandon Pfaadt, though, because he's been their ace in the postseason.
Against Ranger Suarez. Last time they pitched, it was a pitcher's dual, to say the least.
And we were there for that.
We were there.
We were booing Torey Lovello for pulling him early. I'll
yeah.
never forget that. That was hilarious.
The entire
Way to
all
go.
of Chase Field was booing.
Well, he was booing himself. He was booing himself as well, apparently, too. But I mean, Torey's been managing. I mean, his calls are a little questionable, but like he's been doing it all season, and it somehow just ends up working out. I mean, Pavin Smith, pinch hitting, starting in Game 5 as well. He didn't do anything, but I mean, he had 2 hits in that game, a stolen base, got the game-winning run. So he's just pressing all the right buttons.
Yeah, this.
I'm just going
Absolutely
to give you guys like a combo 4-minute warning since you're.
Oh, sorry.
Since you're both.
Ethan-
No, go ahead.
Ethan,
No,
do you have
it's
I'm
fine.
so excited about the game.
No, that's fine. You guys go ahead. Take a double 2-minute warning amongst yourselves.
I mean, yeah, I could talk about the D-backs.
Their offense just really can
I
get
didn't
really
mean you,
explosive.
Ethan, but you can
Okay.
if you want
Well,
to.
Preston asked if
often
I wanted to talk.
Folks at home,
Rude.
let
Ethan, you can
Go
talk.
ahead.
Thank-
Go ahead if
thank
you
you
want to
for
say
your
something.
permission,
Chip
sir.
in. No, chip in. Go ahead.
But I'm surprised they haven't been stealing more bases this series. I mean, they were very aggressive last night, and it's been working. I say they push that button in Game 7 too. Create chaos, as they've been saying.
Right.
all
That's
year.
that's their saying. That's their new
If
thing.
they haven't trademarked that yet, they need to.
I think
absolutely.
I think you're right, Ethan. I think last night was the first time I've seen maybe since the Milwaukee series where they really looked like comfortable. They really looked like they were themselves. Like that was they stole like 3 or 4 bases. You just got to create pressure.
Yeah.
So
Ketel Marte. I'm wearing his jersey today for a reason, by the way.
Is that a Marte jersey?
Yes. Here, I'll
Well, go ahead,
and
spin
show you.
around, spin around. We're on camera and everything. Yeah, you got it. We got it on camera, Marte.
That is drippy.
Nice, good work.
He's been the
Nice.
guy. He's
He really
he's
has. He's
getting
been on fire.
2 hits every game with a double or a triple. Like it's crazy that the Phillies continue to pitch to him, to be honest.
Chance, how many of the playoff games did you go to? Do you get 2 or 3, or
I went
you
to.
didn't go to Philly for any of them?
I did. I wish I did.
That would be
I would have
so
got
cool.
heckled the way I would
Oh,
have got
you
heckled
would've
out
been
of
in a
there.
fight,
We
dude.
had the
Oh, yeah,
money,
for
of
sure.
You would have getting beaten down.
I would love to see you in a
So,
fight.
so you were just taking on a bunch of Phillies fans. So
I
you
wouldn't
went to the
mind. I
two-
wouldn't mind.
You went to the 2 games here in Arizona. What was the? You sent me a couple of messages that it was quite an experience. What was it like?
So I went to game 3 of the Dodgers series. So I think that was the game they swept and they hit the 4 home runs in the same inning. That was insane. I didn't think anything could top that. And then last Thursday I went to game 3 when Ketel walked it off.
Kimbrel.
It was
And he
a
pimped that, too.
2:00 Thursday start, so it was a little early, and there was a lot of chirping on social media about are the D-backs fans going to show up? Phillies fans were buying tickets and just not going. But it was a sellout crowd, and the environment there was very insane. Brendan Pfaadt had 9 Ks, probably the best outing of his career.
awesome.
It was loud in there. The walk-off was insane. And just when I thought it couldn't top what happened,
next game was really
the next
exciting.
game was even
Jeez.
crazier because Alec Thomas goes yard in the bottom of the 8th, and then 2 batters later, Gabriel Moreno drives in the game-winning run. And that place was. I've been to a lot of games this year and like as my time living here, but I've never seen that place like that. I think it was just awesome to see. And my favorite part of the whole game was when Paul Sewald came in and his walk-up song is Jump Around. And you know how like in Wisconsin they do the jump around, and
Fourth quarter jump around.
the whole stadium was doing the jump around, and I thought it was just awesome.
That is awesome.
That is awesome.
So hopefully they bring it home tonight.
Hopefully. Yeah.
Love it when closers have good out songs, like Emmanuel Classe, his classic "The Trumpets."
Mhm.
The-
And Bautista.
That's Edwin Diaz.
Oh, you're right. It's Edwin Diaz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wrong.
That is a
closer
good
that
one,
throws
though.
100.
That
though.
is
That
a
is
good
a
one.
good one.
And
They're both the same.
Bautista on the
pitcher,
Orioles has the whistle, like the Grim
The-
Reaper whistle from the Wire show. So
Yeah,
waiting-
I was in Baltimore, and like when he came out, like they like had the lights shut
Yeah,
down and
it's
everything. like,
awesome.
it's sick.
I'm
Yeah,
waiting for
he's a
someone to come
badass.
out to the Undertaker.
Watch-
That might be
great.
that's
trademark.
Kenny Powers if you want to see that.
Ethan, why
He's
don't
fine.
you Ethan, why don't you go ahead and regale us with your 2-minute warning piece? Go ahead. Start
Well,
right now.
the Heisman race is getting crazy. Caleb Williams just like absolutely dropped off the table. Like I think he's like
Having
his
a
odds-
rough go of it the last
rough-
couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean 3 interceptions in the first half against Notre Dame.
Yeah, we can't count on him anymore, I don't think.
But it is chaos now because JJ McCarthy of Michigan, who has not played the fourth quarter, I don't think all year.
Just because he's so good.
Just because he's been so dominant. And he's at top of the race.
JJ
with
McCarthy.
Jaden
Oh, we talked
Daniels
about this. JJ McCarthy is the quarterback for Michigan.
For
right?
Michigan, yeah.
For those folks that aren't
And partially it's because Michigan's defense has been so dominant, which is why he hasn't had to play the fourth quarter. But like if you watch like the performances he's had, like I have the stats pulled up here. Against Indiana, he had an 82% completion percentage. UNLV through 88% of his passes were completed. Like he's just been pure dominant, efficient. He's been fitting into tight windows, and he has performed like very Heisman-like. And I know Chance was arguing.
I know. I was just gonna say we had a little discussion yesterday. I
heard it was an argument, but
yeah, I wouldn't say an
I was
argument. I'm
heated on it.
very
I sent him very many angry emojis.
So men don't
Yeah,
argue, they
totally.
just discuss.
No, we
this.
had a good talk. I enjoyed it. I love talking football. I love talking sports with anybody. I love a good argument. I mean, I'm an LSU fan. I mean, I'll be a little biased about Jaden Daniels having way better stats and playing way better competition. Like, and I told him yesterday, I said, I'm looking at Michigan's schedule and the teams that they've beaten. are East Carolina,
Mhm.
UNLV,
Yeah.
Bowling Green. He threw 3 interceptions against.
Yeah, that was a rough game.
Rutgers, Nebraska, and Minnesota, Indiana, Michigan State are probably the 4 worst teams in the Big Ten.
Yeah, but if you watch Indiana versus Ohio State, you can see how him completing 82% of his passes against that and what they did to Kyle McCord in like the first 3 quarters
Well,
was impressive.
I will say too, that was the first game of the season, and Kyle McCord is a young quarterback in a brand new system with a lot of great new players on Ohio State. And I will say this as well. I told you yesterday, Jaden Daniels has 700 more passing yards, 7 more touchdown passes, 400 more rushing yards, and he's playing competition. I know we talked about the losses and everything, but
I mean, he
the
got
losses
dominated by Florida State.
he did, yeah. And I wasn't even surprised, honestly. FSU's number 4 in the country for a reason.
Oh, they're nasty.
But I mean, I think what will happen on the stretch is like whoever wins the bigger games,
Right. There's quite a
Yeah.
bit of football left to play. Usually the Heisman Trophy winner will come from one of the highest ranked teams as well. I don't know if LSU qualifies for.
They're 15th.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, so, like,
a
they're
lot
gonna
of
have to be
times,
ranked
a
at
lot
the
of
end of the
times your
year, but-
Heisman, right. A lot of times, but your Heisman winner is going to come from one of those top 4 or 5 teams. A lot of times. It's not always that way, but it just seems to work out that
Usually
way.
is.
Usually
We were talking to LSU plays Bama in 2 weeks, so I think that would be the game where if he
Yeah.
breaks out, then he can
It's
run
gonna be
away with
something
it. So
about
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and crank my 2-minute warning out starting right now. Bam! This is week 8 rendition of college football crazy talk.
Woo.
This week, the craziest upset that we saw was unranked Virginia. They were on Saturday. They were a 1-5 team. They had only won 1 game so far this season. They beat the number 10 ranked University of North Carolina 31-27. Virginia was not 100% sure they were going to play football this year. They had 3 of their players killed in a campus shooting in the offseason and are just kind of getting their feet under them and wound up beating a top-ranked team. So kudos to Virginia for coming back and making that happen. Also on Saturday, I could call them mine because I was born and raised in Minnesota. My Minnesota Golden Gophers defeated the number 24 ranked Iowa Hawkeyes 12.
Iowa kind of got
10.
screwed, though.
In that game, Minnesota won the Floyd of Rosedale trophy. That sounds really regal, but it is a bronze pig. But it is the Floyd of Rosedale trophy. That sounds
I love that.
Sounds very elegant. What could have been the University of Central Florida just about knocked off number 6 Oklahoma. They lost due to not converting a last-minute 2-point try. Dylan Gabriel, Oklahoma quarterback, threw 3 touchdown passes against his old team. He transferred from UCF. So that could have been what to look forward to in week number 9. Number 1, Georgia plays Florida in the Swamp. That might be interesting. Oregon takes on Utah, big Pac-12 battle. Number 8 versus number 13 there. Number 20, Duke is going to go up against Louisville. I like Louisville. Clemson and NC State are going to play. That's always a good one.
Game too.
That's actually a really good one. Tennessee is going to take on Kentucky, and in our weekly Colorado watch, they are going to go up against number 23 ranked UCLA.
Should be an interesting game.
That will be an interesting game for sure. We're going to take a short break and hear from our sponsor, Northeast Valley News.org, and then we will be back with the main event. Tired of punching in for the same old? Change it up a bit and become a journalist by enrolling in JRN 210 at Scottsdale Community College. Work on our digital news site and learn how to do all the stuff that you'll need to know in the business. Enroll now. We're back with the main event of the evening.
Shut up, Bruce Buffer.
This college football season is going to be fairly normal, but next college football season is not going to be normal at all. If any of you were listening a few weeks ago, we talked about all the different teams that are going to be changing conferences next season. So that's going to scramble things up. And then as well as all of that happening, the college football playoff is going to turn into a 12-team affair. Originally only 2 teams, then 4 teams. And then next season, it will be 12, count them, 12 teams. I did a little bit of research on this and tried to put all the particulars together. I can't really say everything in the amount of time we have, but I can tell you that James Parks from College Football HQ spelled out a few of these things for us. There's going to be 12 teams. There's going to be 6. It's going to be made up of the 6 highest ranked conference champions, which will include 5 Power 5 teams and 1 non-Power 5 team. That's pretty interesting. There will also be 6 of the highest ranked teams not among the conference champions as selected by the committee. So there's still going to be a room full of old white guys, which is basically who the selection committee is for the most part. I don't think there's any women on it. Yet. So it's going to be the same dudes and this, hanging around doing the selection. I couldn't believe when they showed who was on the selection committee. It seemed really boring.
Yeah, they were all like kicking their feet up. Like,
yeah, they got like all
games.
cushy chairs and stuff, and they're just watching games in a clubhouse somewhere. I don't know. Anyway, so the selection committee is still going to be a part of it. What's going to happen is the 4 highest ranked conference champions will get a bye in the first round. Okay. And then for the rest of the teams, the higher seeds in the rest of the matchups will decide the site where the game is played. There's going to be 1 of the quarterfinal games will be on December 20th. The other 3 quarterfinal games will be on December 21st. Those will not be named, nor will they have specific sponsorships. So that's interesting because I figured the NCAA would take try to get as much money out of it as they could. But for the quarterfinal games, it seems like they're just going to be games, not a bowl game, not anything like that. They just
they should name it. I
think-
already thought of one. What about the barbecue sauce bowl?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we've
There's a
got
new one
enough.
this year, the Pop-Tart Bowl.
We have enough.
No
No
way.
more Cheez-It Bowl. It's the Pop-Tart Bowl.
Oh, nice. I like
But
Pop-Tarts
Cheez-Its are
way
bad.
more than Cheez-Its,
What
to
about
be
the
honest.
Hard
Barstool Sports
disagree on
Arizona
The-
Bowl? Tucson.
I think, I guess in my opinion, they could vary. I mean, the 20th and the 21st is within bowl season. I think bowls usually start about the 15th or 17th or sometime. So it's within the bowl season. I think they should just use, just make up some new bowls for it. They got it like
They
50
will.
They already have
games.
like 70 different names.
Yeah,
so,
maybe they will. The 4 quarterfinal and 2 semifinal games are going to be played as bowl games on a rotating basis, and I will get to that now. According to Zach Al Khatib from the Sporting News, the Fiesta, the Peach, the Cotton, and the Orange Bowls are going to rotate among the semi and quarterfinals, and the Rose and Sugar Bowls will host quarterfinal games in 24 and 25. But those 6 bowls, Fiesta, Peach, Cotton, Orange, Rose, and Sugar, will be the bowls for the quarterfinals and semifinals. So that's already set. The round 1, as we talked about, will be 1 campus games that'll be on the 20th and the 21st. The quarterfinals will be this year is going to be New Year's Eve day at the Fiesta Bowl, which should be here in Phoenix, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Which it usually is.
Yeah,
Went to it
State Farm
last year. It
Stadium.
was crazy.
Right. And then on Wednesday, New Year's Day, the Peach, the Rose, and the Sugar Bowl will be the other quarterfinals. Semifinals, one will be the Orange Bowl on Thursday, January 9th. The other will be the Cotton Bowl on Friday, January 10th. The national championship game will be played on January 20th, which is a Monday, as per usual. Okay, so that's not going to change. So we've got 12 teams. The news, according to the Associated Press's Ralph Russo, there is a money element involved, as we all know. And this new system is expected to produce about $450 million in additional gross revenue for the 8 schools that are going to participate that normally would not have a chance to participate in the college football playoffs. Okay. So let's pretend Preston and I were our own selection committee this morning.
Yes, we were
And-
said old white guys.
Right. We were the old Caucasian dudes this morning, and we tried to figure out how this would look if the whole thing kicked off today, this week. And here's what we came up with. The teams that would get buys would be Florida State, Michigan, Georgia, and Washington. They are number 4, number 2, number 1, and number 5, respectively. The 5-12 matchup would be Ohio State, number 3, because Washington is number 5, and they already get a bye. And Florida State is number 4. They already get a bye. So Ohio State fits into that spot against the number 12 team, Ole Miss. Number 11 would be Oregon State. They would go up against Oklahoma. The number 10 team is Penn State. They would go up against Texas in the 10-7 matchup. And the 9-8 matchup would currently be Alabama versus Oregon. Wasn't that a national? I think that's a national championship rematch from several years ago.
I think it was Ohio State, maybe.
Oh,
with
okay.
Ezekiel.
I thought there was an Oregon played an SEC team for the national championship.
Was it with Mariota?
Auburn,
It was definitely
Was
with
it
Mariota.
2011 with
Yeah.
Cam
that
Newton.
could've been.
Auburn.
Yeah. I always like those Pac-12 SEC matchups because it's so different. So
Yeah,
Right.
they
It's
had
like-
one a couple of years ago, Georgia, Oregon, but it didn't fare too well.
Oh, that
there.
was
Wait,
it. Georgia,
20
Oregon.
Yeah.
2011 was before Mariota, though, right?
That's
yeah,
it.
Mariota was 13-14.
There would be theoretically a school outside the Power 5 conferences that would be included in this as per the system. But since we're not the actual selection committee, we can only speculate that it might turn out to be Notre Dame at 14, or it could be Tulane or some school like that. But there will, because of the way it is, the system, there's 5. The first 6 schools are 5 Power 5 conferences and 1 non-Power 5.
Could
So
you guys imagine a Tulane Cinderella run?
but
That would be best.
so awesome.
I was just gonna say, like, this reminds me a little bit.
Tulane versus Ohio State, it would be probably the matchup or something. That would be pretty funny.
That would be awesome.
What do we think about this, guys? What are our thoughts on this 12 team going from 4 teams to 12 teams? What do you think of it?
My mind immediately goes to injuries. You're asking, like, these guys are human beings. You're asking guys to play more games.
I never thought of that because a lot of NFL prospects don't play in the bowl games
Yeah.
because they don't want to get hurt and hurt their draft stock. This will only add to that. I mean, the sort of the stigma that goes along with, hey, you're not playing for your school in a very important game because you're selfish or whatever. I mean, I don't know
Yeah.
what
You
the
talked
arguments
about
are.
draft stock. I think it's also an opportunity for
Right.
more players to improve their draft stock. no?
Absolutely.
I agree.
Absolutely.
No, absolutely.
As
They
a-
get more experience and scouts get to see more. But also, like, on an extra game, you don't want, like, a top 5 prospect tearing their ACL in a game that wouldn't be played this year,
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, where you're going to have a couple of schools, maybe playing 3 extra games, to be honest, that may not have been involved at all.
Yeah.
So that can make a big difference. As a purely a college football fan, I absolutely love it. I think it's the greatest because there's more games, there's more excitement. But on a practical level, to be completely honest, I think they should have gone from 4 teams to 8 teams. I think
That would make more sense.
that would have probably been better
Yeah.
because I mean, that brings in to be honest, the matchups are pretty solid. I mean, I don't know if Ole Miss necessarily belongs in the race for the national championship, or Oregon State, to be honest, so I mean, there's a few teams that are definitely sort of on the outside looking in, where you're not going to have super competitive games, probably, but we don't know that. I think if it would have been 8, that it would have been overall more engaging and intriguing and competitive.
I think at the end of the day, like, this is just like a realist look at it. It comes down to money, really. That they want the most money, they want the most revenue, they want the most good
Sure, the
games, good quality
NCAA, right?
games.
The NCAA
always
is
comes
looking to,
down to money.
yeah, they're always looking.
they're
to-
busy.
And,
business.
another thing that stands out to me too is like, I don't know, it's coming to my mind now, but it kind of reminds me of the MLB expansion of the playoffs in a sense. I mean, look, if a team gets hot, let's say like a back end team like Tennessee or Ole Miss sneaks in, if they get hot, then anything can happen. I mean, look at
Mhm.
the D-backs right now.
I was
Right.
gonna say.
But I
And-
think this is awesome though. I really do. I think having a game like on your campus, like I'm looking at a bracket right now, like let's say USC and Bama played. Like that would be an awesome
That would be
game.
insane.
I mean, Tennessee, Kansas State on here. It's not the most appealing matchup, but I mean, for those two fan bases, that's like an awesome opportunity to showcase your teams.
And you look at March Madness college basketball. We
Yeah.
had a UConn and San Diego State college championship.
I mean, my Owls
mean,
made the
that-
Final Four,
That
and
was
they
utter
they were one of the
chaos.
worst teams in the country the year
It
before.
was FAU versus San Diego State to go to the championship. Who would have thought of that? Nobody.
Nobody.
I like it a
My
lot better.
bracket was so messed up by like the round of 32.
I've never liked the two. I mean, when the two team thing was, I'm old enough to remember when there was only two teams that
BCS
qualified for the
championship.
national
I'm
championship. Right. I
also
hated
old enough
that
for that.
because it really wasn't, it just wasn't significant. It's not a significant sample. I mean, it's supposedly the two best teams in the country, but when they went to 4 teams, I was like, hey, this seems like more probable that they're going to include the best 2 teams in the country. But this 12 team system, I mean, that pretty much rules out the selection committee totally goofing up and leaving somebody out that should have been in there. So I like it in that way, but it's more games. They're students. So they're going to be, granted, it's, a lot of bowl games take place during winter break. So they're not like missing a bunch more school, but there's more travel. There's a significantly higher chance to be injured, like you were talking about, Ethan. So there's some pros and cons to this, but as a college football fan, strictly, I love it.
Yeah.
I really like
Looking
it.
forward to some good matchups, and like me being an LSU fan, like you always want to play like in Ohio State. Like next
Mhm.
season they play USC. Like those are pretty good games, to watch with a lot of talent on the field.
Right. And it just makes, to me too, it makes making these bowl games more significant is meaningful to me as well. And it's not like, if the conferences weren't going to get all shuffled up, I would be a little bit more disappointed, because the Rose Bowl has historically always been the top Pac-12 team versus the top Big Ten team. There's traditions involved in these bowl games that if everything were the same next year, I think it would be disappointing, because we'd be losing some of those historical matchups that we look forward to every bowl season. But really, with the conferences getting all scrambled up, I don't know that anybody's going to be able to keep track of who's where anyway, because there's a whole bunch of teams going to different conferences
Yeah.
anyway.
The Pac-4.
Right. We
It'll
don't
be
even
very
know if
special.
there's going to be a Pac-12 next year. Honest to God, we don't. We're not sure.
As of now, that's not.
Right. They're
You're
They're
gonna have a
just gonna
14
turn
conference?
independent. Like, what's gonna happen?
well, see, that's the thing. There's some things that may happen with
Like,
this.
do you get a bunch of Mountain West teams to join the Pac-12? But then
I would love that.
screws the Mountain West.
Right. And that dilutes
But-
the
Do you
conference a
get
little bit.
Conference USA teams?
Yeah, but I've been saying for years that Fresno State should be in the Pac-12. So
I've been
I
saying
think-
San Diego State should be too, and Boise
I
State.
think you're just going to see
Absolutely.
some more mid-major teams like a Fresno State, or teams that have been performing well like the last
Mhm.
couple of years. They're going to start moving up more. I mean, for example, like look at Florida Atlantic. Like they were in the Conference USA for a number of years, and now they're in the American, and they're one of the better teams. So I think it all comes together though. Like you have the expansion of the playoff, and then you have the NIL, and then now you have the conference alignment. So I think it's good that it's all happening at the same time, I think, because I think if it was
I think
sporadic, it'd
it's
be
good
different.
good to get all the upheaval out of the way at once, I think. But it's definitely, next season is really going to be very, very different for college football, and this is a big piece of it, this 12 team playoff, and I'm very, very interested to see how it's going to pan out for sure.
Definitely.
That's all the time we have for this week. We do want to voice our appreciation for everyone listening and watching.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for
Gracias.
sure. Check out our site at nevalleynews.org. Also check us out on social media at nevalleynews.org on all of your favorite platforms. We'll look forward to being here next week and talking about more sports on This Day in Sports. And until then, for goodness sakes, be safe out there and don't text and drive.
Always and forever go D-backs.
Oh, yeah.